Ever since tensions between Iran and the United States escalated again in early 2026, Washington has been tightening the pressure on Tehran. The US has rolled out wide sanctions that basically tell the world not to trade with Iran in key areas like oil, shipping, banking, insurance, or aviation. Even indirect cooperation can trigger punishment. So many global companies simply avoid Iran altogether. For ordinary Iranians, this shows up in very real ways. Imported goods become harder to find, prices rise, and access to modern technology is limited. Even basic things like medicine or foreign investment can become difficult to secure. Life continues, but it becomes more expensive and more uncertain. But this is not the first time. Iran has been under some form of heavy sanctions for decades, and yet it has not collapsed. It still exports oil, imports goods, runs industries, and funds its government and military. So the obvious question is how this is even possible. How does Iran survive with all these sanctions? A sanction is basically an economic restriction used instead of war. A country might freeze assets, block bank transfers, ban exports, or punish companies that trade with a target country. The United States is especially powerful in this system because the dollar sits at the center of global finance. Even when two non-American companies trade with each other, the payment often passes through the US financial system at some point. That gives Washington enormous leverage. This is where secondary sanctions come in, meaning the US can punish foreign companies for dealing with Iran, even if they are not breaking their own country's laws. Iran has lived under sanctions in different forms since 1979. Over time, it did not just endure them, it built workarounds. The most important part of that system is oil. Iran has huge reserves, and oil is its main source of foreign currency needed to import everything else. The US has tried for years to push Iran's oil exports to zero, but oil is very hard to fully block. Most Iranian oil now goes to China. In 2005, China was buying over 80% of Iran's exports, around 1.3 to 1.4 million barrels per day. A large share goes to smaller private refineries known as teapot refineries. These refineries are less exposed to global pressure than big state-owned companies. They can take the risk of buying discounted Iranian oil, and that discount is key. Sanctions do not always stop the sale. They just make it more complicated, riskier, and less profitable for Iran. To move oil, Iran relies on what is often called a shadow fleet. These are tankers that operate in a gray zone. They change names, flags, and ownership on paper. Some use unclear insurance, and many hide their real routes. In some cases, ships even turn off tracking systems to go dark at sea. Oil can also be transferred from ship to ship in the middle of the ocean. This makes it harder to trace its origin. It is not invisible, and satellites do track much of it, but enforcement becomes a constant game of catch-up. One ship gets sanctioned, and another replaces it. Selling oil is only half the problem. Getting paid is even harder. Iran cannot easily use normal international banking, so it relies on a shadow financial system. This includes exchange houses, front companies, foreign bank accounts, and informal payment networks. A front company might appear to import electronics or food, but in reality, it is moving money for Iranian trade. There are also systems similar to hawala, where trusted brokers settle debts without money ever passing through official banks. It is all designed to avoid clear financial trails. A simple example helps explain it. Iran sells oil to China, and a Chinese company owes money. At the same time, another Chinese company needs to pay for imports. Instead of money moving in and out of Iran directly, intermediaries balance the accounts locally. The money never clearly touches the US financial system. Iran also uses other tools like cryptocurrency, the Chinese yuan, and barter. Crypto can move value outside banks, but it is still traceable and not a complete solution. UN payments often stay inside China's system, meaning Iran spends the money there instead of bringing it home. Barter simply means trading oil directly for goods like machinery or food. Geography also helps Iran survive. It borders 7 countries and sits near major trade routes. Trucks cross land borders daily, and small ships move goods across the Gulf. Supply chains get broken into smaller pieces, making them harder to monitor. Some of this is legal trade, some is gray, and some is smuggling. At the same time, Iran has increased domestic production. This is called import substitution, meaning it produces at home what it cannot easily import. It has built industries in steel, cement, cars, pharmaceuticals, petrochemicals, and military equipment. It also reverse engineers foreign technology to recreate it locally. But this comes with trade-offs. Local production is often less efficient, more expensive, and lower quality than imported goods. Sanctions keep the economy running, but not necessarily competitive or modern. To manage pressure, the government controls prices and currency access. Fuel and bread are heavily subsidized, and essential imports get cheaper official exchange rates. Other sectors pay much higher market rates. This keeps basic goods affordable, but it also creates corruption and inequality. Powerful groups often benefit the most. The Revolutionary Guard controls large parts of the economy, including construction, energy, transport, and telecoms. Semi-state foundations also run major businesses with little transparency. In some cases, sanctions strengthen these groups rather than weaken them. The real cost is carried by ordinary people. The currency loses value, inflation rises, and savings shrink. Imported goods become expensive, and households struggle to keep up. Some people buy dollars, gold, or crypto to protect their wealth, but many cannot. So why has Iran not collapsed? Because sanctions do not work like a switch that turns an economy off. Iran is a large country with nearly 90 million people, major energy resources, domestic industry, and regional trade routes. It also has partners like China willing to keep buying its oil. Sanctions do not stop Iran's economy completely. They reshape it. Trade becomes more hidden. Costs rise, and corruption increases. The system shifts away from normal global finance into a network of workarounds. Iran has not beaten sanctions. It has adapted to them. But that adaptation comes at a heavy cost, and most of it is paid by ordinary people. From the outside, it can look like survival. From the inside, it feels like constant economic pressure that never fully goes away.